With all due respect, Governor Christie, I don't think your characterizing was on that tape accurately. There's no way to listen to that tape and to think that Kevin McCarthy told the truth. That tape, you hear Kevin McCarthy saying, "I've had it with that guy," referring to Donald Trump. Yep. You hear Kevin McCarthy saying he is going to call Donald Trump, and his recommendation would be that he is to resign. It is true, and
that's not what he said.
But
John, that's not what he said.
Can I please?
That's not what he said.
Oh, fireworks on ABC's This Week. Jonathan Karl made a little bit of news because he's disagreeing explicitly with a blatant liar in Chris Christie. And for some reason, that's worth talking about because no one ever challenges them on these things. I guess it takes a blatant tape like the McCarthy tapes, which is what they were discussing, for someone to say, hey, what you're now trying to recreate here is not the reality of the situation. So Chris Christie is trying to defend McCarthy, or at least trying to deflect from the attention that goes to the story of him lying about what he was saying on those tapes about Donald Trump and how he wanted him to resign. There's more to this. Chris Christie continued talking about what he wants people to believe versus what they heard. Watch.
No. What he said was, if the Senate has the votes to convict,
that's not a quote. That's not a quote. That's not a quote from the tape.
Then I would tell him to resign. That's what the conversation was.
Is there any chance? Are you hearing that he might resign? Is there any reason to think that might happen?
This is what I think. No, it'll pass the House. I think there's a chance it'll pass the Senate even when he's gone. Again, I mean, the only discussion I would have with him is that I think this will pass, and it would be my recommendation we should resign.
We heard it a million times, Jackson. So as you know, Chris Christie, recap. Chris Christie said, if it passes, being the impeachment vote here, if it passes, then I would tell him to resign. How does that work, first of all? And as we heard again for the 100th time on those tapes, he goes, it's my belief that it's gonna pass. Even if he's not there, it still might pass the Senate. And I'm gonna call him and tell him he should resign. And again, that was the right thought process because he understood the gravity of the situation, and that's what he's trying to avoid being seen as. McCarthy's trying to avoid being seen as the guy who knew how bad this looked and actually wanted some accountability for the president at the time. Crazy how that works, Jackson.
Well, I think that the reality of Chris Christie is that he's a politician, and we have him openly saying before that you only care about what the public thinks when you're running for office, and when you're in office, who cares? So he's already demonstrated, when he was on the beaches during the shutdowns, he's already demonstrated that he really doesn't have much principles when it comes to this. But since he's publicly condemned Trump already in a variety of different ways, he can really sit on that fence and play both sides because, as he inches forward to protect Kevin McCarthy, he can always point back to the times that he's condemned Trump for this and condemned Trump for that and said that he lost the 2020 election. So really, Chris Christie's in a good position, and he's really just trying to position himself better within the Republican Party because he has condemned Donald Trump.
You think it works though? Okay, because look, Kevin McCarthy's groveling back to Trump after this, or hoping to. I still think there's some issues there because I think there's some underlying issues that are gonna pop up. But because Trump remembers what was said in those tapes versus what McCarthy's trying to say now. But if you're Chris Christie, you're trying to position yourself for 2024 run, which is what it seems he's doing. Of course, you wrote a book, media tour, and now things like this. Is this groveling towards Trump, or is this groveling towards McCarthy, or is this groveling towards his own maverick version of what he thinks he is? I don't see it working. I feel like he should just kind of stay out of this.
I don't know if he's exactly sure what he's doing because in the clip when it played a little bit further, you could kind of see his uncertainty, his not full confidence in what he was doing. So I think he's trying to position himself as well as he can, but just on a human level, I don't think he knows exactly what he's doing.
Well, here's a little bit of that uncertainty, I think, because once you find yourself losing that argument, because apparently Jonathan Karl, he thought Jonathan Karl would be like, oh, you're right, I'm sorry, former governor. You have to deflect and change the subject once you've realized that your argument is not really working out. So here's what he said afterwards. Here's where he changed where he was talking. Here's Chris.
You know who cares about this? Maybe 5 people in Washington, D.C. The voters across the country could care less about this. This is the rear view mirror stuff that the American people don't care about when they're paying $5 a gallon for gas, when they've got 8.5% inflation and can't buy their groceries, and when there's crime all over the streets in our major cities. They just don't care, John.
They just don't care. They don't care. Hey, why are we talking about this anyway? They care about gas prices and food on the shelves. It's the same tired talking points over and over again. If you find a politician or a pundit or anyone who's making an argument after they've made the argument that they've lost, that they then shift and start talking about, you know what the American people really want? The American people want to know the answers to this question, because that's what we've been seeing. And are you dismissing other American people who understand the gravity of the situation, understand that Kevin McCarthy is a liar, and understand that he's changed his position only because he's looking for more power? That's not the way you usually want to elect someone into office. We're looking for self-promotion versus helping the people. What are your last thoughts on this, Jackson?
My last thoughts are that, again, you could see the posturing. You could see that he was making a decent point that this isn't necessarily on the front of people's minds, but treason is what we're talking about with January 6th. So it's absolutely not true that no one cares, but you can see how he's just playing both sides, trying to do as much as he can. But Chris Christie's never going to be president or anything like that. So, it kind of really doesn't matter what he does, really.
Bold prediction of Jackson.
Right.